When people hear that I left my wife and child, they immediately assume the worst. They call me selfish, a deadbeat, a coward. But no one knows what really happened behind closed doors. No one knows how much I gave before I finally walked away. I met Hannah when I was 25, and she was 23. She was vibrant, fun, and full of life, always the center of attention. We dated for 3 years before getting married, and in those early days, I thought we had something special. She was loving, affectionate, and seemed to genuinely care about me. When we decided to have a baby, I was ecstatic. I wanted to be the best dad possible, the kind of father my own never was. But from the moment Hannah got pregnant, everything changed. She became moody, distant, and demanding. I chalked it up to hormones and stress, and I did everything I could to support her. I cooked, cleaned, and catered to her every need. I reassured her when she felt insecure, massaged her swollen feet after work, and even took on extra hours so she could take unpaid maternity leave before the baby arrived. Then came the birth. It was a nightmare. A complicated delivery, an emergency C-section, our son in the ICU for 2 weeks. I was terrified, but I stayed strong for Hannah. I never left the hospital, barely ate, barely slept. When she cried, I held her. When she screamed at me, I took it. When she shut me out, I waited. I told myself things would get better once we got home. They didn't. The woman I married disappeared. She was always angry, always criticizing. Nothing I did was enough. I worked all day, came home, took care of the baby, made sure she had time to rest, bathed the baby, fed him at night so she could sleep. And still, she found something to complain about. I tried to understand. I joined mom forums, read books about postpartum depression, asked her what she needed from me. But instead of appreciating my efforts, she weaponized everything. Sex became a tool for punishment. If I forgot to do something small, she'd hold it against me. If I disagreed with her on anything, she'd accuse me of not supporting her. She wanted more money, more time, more attention, but when I suggested going back to work so we could afford help, she accused me of trying to escape fatherhood. She would go out with her friends, post pictures of herself having fun, but when it came to taking our son outside for some fresh air, she was too exhausted. For 2.5 years, I lived like this, walking on eggshells, sacrificing every part of myself, trying to be a perfect husband and father. But nothing changed. The resentment in her eyes never faded. I began to wonder if she even loved me anymore. One day, I came home after a grueling shift, hoping to have at least 5 minutes to breathe before taking over baby duties. Instead, I walked into the house to find her sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Our son was crying in his crib, and she hadn't even bothered to check on him. I picked him up, soothed him, and looked at her. "Hannah, what's going on?" She scoffed. "You're home now. You deal with it." Something inside me snapped. "I can't do this anymore." The words came out before I could stop them. She looked up from her phone, finally giving me attention, but instead of concern, her eyes were filled with anger. "Are you seriously complaining? After everything I've been through? I know you've been through a lot, but so have I, and I feel like I'm the only one trying. I don't even think you love me anymore." She laughed bitterly. "Love? Do you think I have time to think about love? I have a child to raise." "We have a child to raise," I shot back. "But I'm the only one doing it." That night, I packed my things. She didn't try to stop me. In fact, she barely reacted. It was as if she had been waiting for me to leave all along. I moved into a small apartment. I still saw my son every weekend, still paid for everything he needed. But for the first time in years, I could breathe. I could sleep without worrying about waking up to another fight. I could enjoy a cup of coffee without dreading the next complaint or demand. Then the calls started. Hannah called me every night, not to reconcile, but to berate me. "You abandoned your family. You're a terrible father. I hope our son grows up to hate you." But I stood my ground. I'd given everything, and in return, I had been treated like an ATM, a servant, a punching bag. A few months later, I found out she had started dating again. Good for her, I thought. Maybe now she'd be happier. Maybe now she'd stop hating me. But the text continued. Whenever she needed money, she'd call me. If our son was sick, she'd blame me. If she had a bad day, she'd take it out on me. One day, I went to pick up my son, and he clung to my leg, refusing to let go. "Daddy, stay," he begged. And that's when Hannah looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years: genuine fear. She was afraid that our son loved me more than her, that despite everything, I had still been the better parent. And that's when I knew I wasn't the villain in this story. I was just the only one brave enough to walk away. Do I regret leaving? Number. Do I miss my son? Every single day. but I will never apologize for choosing my own peace.